Good evening. Hello. Hello, good evening.
Good evening, madam.
Right.
Good
Good evening.
Good evening, madam.
Good evening, everyone. So, how are you? Last week I couldn't do. Uh, uh, it's very special thing happened. So because of that, I had to cancel. Okay. So this is my, how many sessions already conducted? How many sessions already conducted? 3 sessions?
Yeah, madam.
Are you sure? What's the last lesson I did? See, 3 sessions or 2 sessions?
3, madam.
3. So what's the last topic? Can't remember. Classical and, no, not classical and operant. I need your support to recall what I did last time.
Sigma and Freud.
Sigmund Freud,
Psych-
I'm done with that, the completed. The
Yeah,
5
madam.
stages,
Yeah,
the
madam.
fixation and all that. Okay,
Yes, madam.
it's done. No? Even fixation and everything we discussed. No? Then after Sigmund Freud, did I do Bronfenbrenner's ecological model? Exosystem, microsystem and all?
Yes.
Yeah. Erik Erikson's 8 stages did, no?
Yeah.
Trust versus mistrust and all that. Karada.
Yes, madam.
Etra Kohlberg's theory of moral development.
How do you discuss that?
Yes, ma'am.
That's the last part done. So actually
Yeah.
that unit is done, completed. Okay. So developmental psychology. All these are done neda kiyala balana. I have shared it, the no. So I'm sharing that PowerPoint I used. So let's see. Define lifespan development. You can see the PowerPoint I've shared. Then growth and development. Aspects of whole child, like, language development, social emotional development. Then factors that affect child's growth and development. Nature versus nurture. Maturity versus learning. Have I done?
Yes, ma'am.
Theories of lifespan development, Piaget, Freud, Erikson, Kohlbergs, and Bronfenbrenner. All the 5 theories are done. Am I okay?
Yes, madam.
Yes. So then I can actually move on to our next topic. Session 4. We are discussing cognition. What is the topic? Cognition. We are discussing cognition. So you make your notes as well, right? While listening, please make your notes. Our new topic is cognition, right? When it comes to cognition, give me a second. When it comes to cognition, how do you define cognition? What is cognition? Piaget's theory of cognitive development also done, no? So because of that, you can tell me what is cognition, Kiela. Just give it a try. Don't keep quiet. What is cognition? Can't. Hmm?
Let's focus about internal mental capacity, ma'am.
Definitely, yes. Internal mental capacities of the individual is our cognition. So, can you tell me what are our internal mental capacities then? You're correct. What are our internal mental capacities? What are our internal mental capacities? What is referred to as? Now, think of Piaget's theory.
Sensation and perception.
That is, yes. Cognition is, it begins with sensations, and then the sensations are perceived and they are committed to the memory, and then we have to retrieve the information committed to the memory to solve problems and to think logically and to be creative and critical in our thinking. This process is our internal mental capacity or our cognition. Okay, that process is our internal mental capacity or our cognition. So, we are going to discuss how our cognition works. Why? You know, how we perceive things, how we commit it to the memory, retrieving information from the memory, and then use them for problem solving. All these are directly related to hello? No, you can call me after 9:30, okay, in a lecture. Right, okay. Then internal mental capacities, they are very much important in learning, right? In the learning teaching process, you want your students to understand, comprehend, perceive, commit it to memory, and use what is in the memory to actually do later on activities and all that. So if the teacher knows how our cognition works, right, you can facilitate the learning teaching process. Because of that, this unit in the session 4 is focusing on how our cognition works. What is cognition? What is the cognitive process, and how it happens? And then, as you know how it happens, how it works, you can actually facilitate learning by catering to the needs of the cognitive process. That is why this unit is there. So let me open my PowerPoint, and show you uh, my slides, and then get you to look at the cognitive process. Unit 3, cognition. These are some definitions. So you can read it and tell me what is cognition. The cognition is the capacity to acquire and apply knowledge. The American Heritage Dictionary, 4th edition, 2000. One's cognition is the capacity to acquire and apply knowledge. You have to acquire knowledge and you have to apply that knowledge in doing different things: problem solving, logical thinking, creativity, critical thinking, etc. So acquiring and applying knowledge, our capacity to do so, is our cognition. Okay. Can you read the second definition? Yeah, nobody wants to.
The ability to use memory, knowledge, experience, understanding, reasoning, imagination, and judgment in order to solve problems and adapt to new situations.
Yeah, the ability to use memory, knowledge, experience, understanding, reasoning, imagination, and judgment. Judgment can logical thinking once again, no, in order to solve problems and adapt to new situations. All words dictionary. So one's ability to use the memory. So it talks about how we commit information to memory. So then knowledge and experience and understanding, and then think logically and imagination and judgment, and solve problems and adapt to new situations. That is cognition. Okay, good. So if you look at W.V. Bingham's definition of cognition, he says it refers to intelligence. That means the ability of an organism to solve new problems. Cognition is intelligence, that one's ability to solve problems. Okay. Then Haggerty. Haggerty talks about sensation, perception, association, memory, imagination, discrimination, judgment, and reasoning is our cognition. What is sensation? We receive lots of information. We receive it from our sensory organs. We have 5 sensory organs. What are they? We have 5 sensory organs.
Eye, ear,
Eye, ear,
eye,
skin,
ear,
nose,
tongue, and nose,
nose,
right?
skin,
skin,
So accordingly, we have 5 sensations. What are they? Smell,
smell,
sight,
hear,
smell, sight,
listen,
Taste.
what we hear, and
yeah,
taste and
taste,
feel. Yeah, what we feel. So they are sensations. So we receive lots of information through our sensory organs, and all these sensory stimuli that we actually see and hear and um, feel and all that, they are not perceived by us. They are not perceived by us. Now you think of online class. You are listening to your lecturer, but in the meantime, in your room, the fan is going fast and it makes a creaky noise. And there can be a cockroach on the floor. And there can be a neighbor talking to somebody at a distance. Now only that you're thinking of all these things. Otherwise, you're not actually perceiving them. They are there, the sensations are there, but you're not perceiving them because you did not pay attention. As I told you, your neighbor is talking to somebody, and now, of course, you're perceiving. Once attention paid, and then they are committed to memory, right? Then once it's committed to memory, you can use these information, retrieve them, and engage in problem solving, logical thinking, critical thinking, creativity, imagination, etc. So this is our cognition. It's a process of sensation, perception, memory, imagination, discrimination, judgment, and reasoning, as said by Haggerty. So then again, Bernstein and Murray, they say cognition is the cognitive ability. What is the cognitive ability? Sensation, perception, if not our ability to acquire and apply knowledge in problem solving and critical thinking and creativity and etc. So now you have an understanding what this cognition is all about. Am I right?
yes,
So now
Yes.
at home, when you actually revise, if you're doing, you can write your own definition of cognition. Write your own definition of cognition. Okay, right. Then cognition is a process. It's a process. It's a series of things happening. Cognition is a process, one after the other. There are things happening in our cognition in our understanding, in our memory, in committing, in retrieving our memory like that. It's a process. So studies of cognition includes processes such as sensation and perception, memory and forgetting, attention, problem solving, decision making, critical thinking, creativity, imagination. All these are actually cognition. But remember, this cognitive process begins with what? This understanding, thinking, reasoning, logical thinking, all these begins with what? What should happen first? Receiving information through the five senses. So you call it what?
Sensation.
Sensation. So the cognitive process begins with sensation. And then these sensations are perceived, they are given meaning, and then they are committed to memory. And what is committed to memory might forget, right? And all these things happen when you pay attention. So once you commit information into memory, you can retrieve them and solve problems. I know mathematics, I know this, I know where it is situated. You want to go there, you recall it, retrieve it, and use the information in the memory, and you engage in logical thinking, critical thinking, imagination, creativity, etc. This is the cognitive process. Okay. So this is very much applicable into the classroom teaching and learning. Right? If students do not actually receive sensations and then they are not perceived and nothing can be committed to memory and then engage in learning. So because of that, as teachers, you should know this cognitive process is very important in the learning and teaching process. Hope that it is understood. And now we are looking at the very first cognitive process, where the cognitive process begins. It's sensation and perception. It's sensation and perception. Okay. Now, what is sensation? What is perception? That is where the cognitive process begins. In your classroom also, this is where the student receiving information and committing it to memory and storing it in the memory begins with sensation and perception. Okay. So there are insights for the teacher. You have to actually provide sensory input and get them to pay attention and perceive them. If this does not happen, nothing can be committed to memory for retrieval and problem solving. Okay. So sensation and perception, what are they? Sensations are what you hear, see, touch, smell, and taste. Okay. Sensations are what you hear, see, touch, smell, and taste. Perception is selection, organization, and interpretation of our sensations. It means give it meaning, sensations. Now, as I told you, where you are seated now, there can be lots of things happening, no? There can be lots of things happening. Maybe your husband shouting at somebody because you're busy with your class, and children are crying, and your helper is cooking in the kitchen and she's making a big noise there, and the neighbors playing music, and cockroach on this, you see a cockroach on the floor. All these are sensations, right? And you know, you're not going to pay equal attention. You're not going to pay equal attention to all these sensations. Right at the moment, the cockroach is immature. You're listening to me, or maybe that you're talking to somebody on the phone. So the rest is secondary. But once, if you pay attention, If you pay attention, now I get you to look at the first slide. Look at the first slide. When I showed you the first slide, you did not actually pay attention to this, I'm quite sure. Now I'm asking, what is this? What are the colors? What is the icon and all that? Now you're paying attention. Am I right? When I showed you the first slide, did you notice this? It has something like these 3 colors and all that, a human figure, or it's a kind of not human figure. Did you notice it? I'm asking. No. Now I'm showing you, I'm pointing out, I'm getting you to pay attention. Now you notice. Am I right?
Yes,
Yeah.
madam.
Likewise, perception happens when you pay attention and select and organize and interpret those sensations, right? For example, you're in a class, you're in a lecture hall. Your favorite color is red. There are hundreds of students, hundreds of them seated. As your favorite color is red, you notice the ones who are in red. You are in red. Because you can't pay equal attention to all the 100, right? And you like tall people. So when a tall person walks in, you pay attention, but you don't pay attention to each and everyone walking into the class. So there are so many sensations, but you select and then organize and interpret those sensations, give it meaning, and then they are perceived. And then they are perceived. So sensations are transformed into perceptions by paying attention. Sensations are transformed into perceptions by paying attention. Am I right? Now look at this slide. How many shades of blue? You were looking at this, but you never paid attention to how many shades of blue, Kela. When I asked that question, how many shades of blue? Now you're looking at it and say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so many, several shades of blue, Kela. Am I right?
Yes,
How did
madam.
it happen? You get them, I get you to pay attention by asking a question. This exact thing should happen in the teaching learning process, because sensation and perception is the beginning of the cognitive process. If sensation and perception do not occur, no information to commit to the memory. So when you do your teaching, if you really want them to commit information to the memory and then retrieve it for problem solving, you definitely have to get them to go through this sensation and perception, the processes. How can you do that? You have to give them sensory inputs. They should see visuals, they should listen to you or the audio that you play, and they should engage in hands-on experience, touch them, feel them, and all that. But they can't pay equal attention. Because of that, while the sensory inputs are available, you have to get them to pay attention in order to get them to actually perceive it and give it meaning. Perceive it and give it meaning. Okay. Now, the same thing is further explained how they work together, sensation and perception. They are overlapping processes, right? Sensation and perception are two sides of the same coin, overlapping processes. Sensation, sensory organs, the 5 sensory organs absorb energy from physical stimulus in the environment. And then sensory receptors convert this energy into neural impulses and send them into the brain, right? Perception follows. The brain organizes the information and translate it into something meaningful. You give it meaning, right? That is how. Now here the illustration, sensation and perception. Sensation is the raw detail. There is receptors through the 5 receptors, and perception, you have given it interpretation. The brain has given interpretation. Now I give you an example here. Um, you're in a lecture hall. My goodness, there's a monkey actually jumping through the wall or whatever into the hall. How do you perceive it? How will you react to it? Somebody will perceive it as a funny thing happening because they're used to this kind of animals and all that, right? They rear pets and they are very close to their pet lovers, animal lovers. So because of that, they will perceive it as something normal or to have fun, or they will like it. But if you are scared of animals, especially animals like monkeys and all that, then you will actually perceive it as a threatening experience. So, perception, how you interpret sensations, it depends on internal and external factors. Interest, you're interested in music because of that the neighbors are playing music and your attention will be paid to that. Okay, and interest, they are internal factors, internal factors. Your interest and your liking, your experiences, and all that. There can be external factors also affecting our perception. What are the external factors that affect our perception? We are going to discuss them by looking at Gestalt laws of perception. So when you actually teach in class, Mummy ඔයාලට කියලා දෙන insights for the teacher. You know that acquiring knowledge and storing them in the memory for retrieval is the cognition. We saw it in definitions. So you have to actually start with sensation and perception. So when you actually use a lot of sensory input, make sure you actually get them to pay attention and get them to perceive them. Okay? So to facilitate perception, because ඒගොල්ලෝ perceive කරේ නැත්නම් එතනින් එහාට උගන්න ගන්න බෑනේ. එතනින් එහාට no learning. So to get them to perceive, to pay attention, you can use strategies. That is actually lesson planning. Lesson planning is something that I'm going to teach this lesson. So I'm going to use these sensory inputs, visual aids. I'm going to explain my voice, my explanation. I'm going to get them to engage in a hands-on activity. They are sensory inputs. And then you have to make sure that you get them to pay attention to important parts of the lesson. Otherwise, sensations are lost. They will not perceive it to commit it to memory. So you don't have to get them to lose sensory input. The important parts of the lesson, they should not lose. So because of that, you will have strategies to facilitate perception, that is interpretation of the sensations. Hope it is yanta clear here. Am I right? Not everything that you understood, but some understanding. Some understanding is there, or this is like Greek to you. කතා කරන්නකෝ අනේ. Is it understood or it's not understood? I have to explain it again. Am I not connected?
We didn't understand, ma'am.
You understand?
No, no, I can't. No, we can't understand.
You can't understand. Hemant, others also don't understand. අයියෝ ළමයි
Yes,
උත්තර
madam.
දෙන්නකෝ. Huh?
Yes, ma'am,
Understood.
we don't understand.
You don't understand පුදුමයිනේ. Then I will explain it again. Hemant, from which point?
Yeah, madam.
Huh? From which point that you don't understand? Sensation and perception.
Start.
Huh? Tell will you? කොතනින්ද තේරෙන්නේ නැත්තේ? මුල ඉඳන්ම තේරෙන්නේ නැද්ද? I want your feedback, then only that I can actually do something.
This part, madam.
This part. ඒ කියන්නේ sensation and perception.
Yeah, madam.
Yes, madam.
Others? Yeah, okay.
Madam.
Now, right, okay. Now, once again, sensation and perception. එතකොට පළවෙනියෙන් අපි කියන්න ඕනේ cognition begins with cognitive process begins with sensation and perception. පළවෙනි top point එක. Cognitive process begins with sensation and perception. එහෙනම් මොකද්ද sensation කියලා කියන්නේ? Sensations are the sensory input. Sensations are the sensory input. Now we have 5 sensory organs. You know, eyes, ears, nose, skin, and tongue. So you receive a lot of information through the 5 sensory organs. What you hear, what you see, what you feel, what you taste. Okay? What you smell. They are sensory inputs. They are sensory inputs. So there are a lot of sensory inputs. Fan is making a noise, cockroach on the floor, and you get the smell of the good food that your mom is cooking, right? All these are sensory inputs, sensory information. The smell of your food, the noise the fan makes, right? The cockroach that you see, they are all sensory inputs that you receive through the sensory organs, receptors. But you're not paying equal attention to all these sensations. You're not paying equal attention to all these sensations. Why? Because our capacity to receive information through sensations is limited. Our capacity to receive information through sensory organs is limited. Because of that, now you're listening to my lecture and your mom is making a kind of a fine food dinner and you get that smell. So now you're withdrawn from the lesson. You're distracted. Now you're thinking of the good food. You're not fully into my lecture because we can't pay equal attention to all the sensations. And we have to select the sensations and pay attention and interpret or give it meaning and commit it to memory. That is it. Sensations, you can't pay equal attention because our capacities are limited. So you will actually pay some attention to some sensations that you are interested in, that you like and all that. The rest are actually not paid attention. So they are forgotten. They are not actually perceived. They are not given meaning. They are not interpreted. That පන්තික 100ක් ඉන්නකොට you like red color. So you have paid attention to the girls in red. But the girls in blue, the girls in black, they are not paid attention. So they are lost there. Only the girls in red is remembered. So then if you are remember, if you have given meaning to the sensations, we call it is perceived, Kela. It is perceived. So if you think of the classroom also, that is what exactly happens in teaching. You have lots of sensory input. Your teacher explaining, showing visuals, getting them to touch and feel, all are there. And they can't pay equal attention, so they will select and they will perceive that. So that is where the cognition begins, and it's applicable to the classroom teaching and learning as well. දැන් තේරුණාද ඒත් නැද්ද?
Oh, okay, madam.
Others?
Okay,
Others?
madam.
Others?
Okay, ma'am. No.
Okay. Right. Now we are going to look at this. I want you to look at this picture. At a glance, as you see it first, what do you see? How do you perceive it? What do you see? How do you perceive it? Don't look at it like in a very serious manner. Just at a glance, just you see that. What do you perceive? What do you see in the picture? Yes, please. මොකද දැක්කේ මේ පින්තූරේ?
2 paces.
Okay. Every one of you? Only 2 faces? Or anybody is there who saw something else? අයියෝ පන්තිය නම් කතා කරන්නේ අප මට බෑ ඔමු ගන්නන්න.
I can see something like a vessel, ma'am.
Yeah, a vessel or a
Vessel
vase.
also
A
there.
vessel or a vase. Yeah. Now this is one picture. The same picture, the sensation. The picture is the sensation. The same sensation picture is perceived in 2 different ways. Am I right?
Yes, madam.
That is
Yes,
perception.
madam.
How you interpret it. So some have seen the vase or the vessel, some have seen the 2 faces. So what you saw, that is the perception, that is the interpretation given to the sensation of this picture. Picture is the sensation and it is perceived, and some have perceived it at a vase, some have perceived it as 2 faces. This is where the danger lies. When you want to teach something, you have sensations, you have your talk, it's they listen and learn, you actually show them visual aids, you get them to do an activity and touch and feel it and all that. They're all sensations. But how they perceive it, this is red color, this is good, this is not good, this is too big, and all these perceptions, how they perceive it is not as same as the other ones. Okay? Okay,
Yeah, madam.
Okay, madam.
right. With that, I will now hear. Now, some of you have seen the vase, some of you have seen the 2 faces. Okay, some of you have seen the vase, some of you have seen the 2 faces. But in the classroom, it can't happen. When you do a lesson, you can't get them to perceive the input that you give them the way they want. It cannot be done. So they have to perceive it right. In order to facilitate that perception, how they interpret sensations, we can look at Gestalt laws of perception. How perception happens. That is what Gestalt laws of perception discusses. Right. So now it is 8:12. Okay, 8:30. Can you give me 2 minutes? Don't leave the meeting. I'm going to be here also. So I will be talking to you in 2 minutes. Okay? I'll be
Okay.
talking to you.
Okay, madam.
Okay. Uh, can you still see the PowerPoint slides?
Can't, ma'am.
Yes.
No, madam.
No, ne? All right. Okay.
No,
All right.
madam.
Right. Now you know our perception may differ. How we give meaning to what we receive through our sensations, what we see, what we hear, what we smell, what we actually taste, and all that. It's not the same, right? How we perceive it. This is sweet, this is sour, this is bright, this is red, this is beautiful. Now you can see there can be a girl, right? She's a bit dark, and some might say she's dark and not good looking, because that is how you perceive it. But if that dark girl is seen by a foreigner, that foreigner might think, you how beautiful she is, she's a dark angel, Kiela, because they like the dark skin. No? So likewise, the way that we perceive things, they differ based on our internal factors like our interest, our motivations, our experiences, etc. But now, when it comes to learning and teaching, whether they it is within their interest or not, whether they are motivated or not, it's within their experience or not, that you need to get them to perceive the information presented to them in a right way. Am I right? Can there be different perceptions of what you are going to teach them? Can be different perceptions? No. So you have to get them to perceive it properly. So you have to facilitate that. That is actually what is meant by teaching, right? You don't you don't have to teaching is what you know is actually taught. There's a connection issue today. It's windy and raining here. What about you all?
Same, madam.
Same here, madam.
Yeah, that is it. I lost the connection twice. Okay, now. So then the teachers, as teachers, that you have to know are they have to perceive it right. They have to perceive it right. You can't actually get them to perceive it the way they want. Right? For example, if you're a language teacher, so you're teaching them English simple present tense, grade 6. So to teach simple present tense, you actually take a popular cricketer or an actor's daily routine and get them to read it. Then only that they can learn how to form the simple present tense verb, base form or S form. So you actually get them to read about this popular figure, his or her daily routine. So there can be those who pay attention to the verb formation, and there can be those who don't pay attention to verb formation, but they become interested in the daily routine, what they do on regular basis, and they will actually pay attention to that. But what you really want is, you want them to learn whether to use S form or base form in simple present tense. But they don't pay attention to that if you don't purposefully get them to pay attention to verb formation. Otherwise, they will perceive it how he spends he goes to gym and he does this and that. Interest But as a teacher, you should know that the lesson objective is you want them to learn how to use S form or base form in simple present tense. So if that is the focus, if that is the figure is the vase. So presented in ground is the popular famous person's daily routine. But the figure is getting them to pay attention to S form and base form in present simple. So you have to make sure as a teacher, they have to pay attention to the vase, that is the figure that is in the example, how to form the verb. So you have to make sure they actually pay attention to it. For that, you have to use attention gaining strategy. You ask them to circle the S form of the verb and the base form of the verb. Then they pay attention. Why you get them to circle? So they pay attention. Then it is perceived. If you don't do that, you just go on talking about the popular figure's daily routine. They become interested in the figure name ground. Right? The figure, the S or base form, they will not pay attention. That is what happens in most of the time in classroom learning and teaching. The teachers are not prepared with strategies to get them to pay attention to the figure, the lesson, because the figure is presented in ground. Otherwise, you can't. එහෙමනේ අපි දැන් මම කිව්ව example එකේ you can't teach S form and base form without using context. So to get them to become interested, you use the popular figures daily routine. So there's the threat that they pay attention to the ground of the figure. ඒගොල්ලෝ දන්නවා කොහොමද එයා දවස ගත කරන්න කියලා. හැබැයි S form the base form ද ඉගෙනගෙන නැහැ. That can't happen. But that happens in everyday basis in the classrooms, in teaching and learning. So you can see how important it is for you, right, to facilitate the perception of the sensory input. Proper perception, right? Otherwise, they will perceive it something different. Okay. So in facilitating perception, you can make use of Gestalt laws of perception. You can make use of Gestalt laws of perception. Gestalt is actually a group of psychologists involved in this. You don't have to remember the names of the psychologists now car and all that. Like, it's not necessary, but Gestalt is the school of thought. They actually formulated some laws of perception and how individuals perceive things easily. These laws discuss how individuals perceive things easily. Okay. So what am I going to talk next, Killer? Can you tell me? What am I going to talk to you next? Can you tell me?
External.
No, I'm going to talk to you about Gestalt laws of perception, the external factors that actually facilitate perception, right? So I'm going to actually talk to you about 5 laws. Now what you can do is, right? Now what you can do is, I will actually play a video. Now have a piece of paper with you. Do you have pen and paper with you?
Yes, madam.
Yeah. Then you need a large page and have 4 columns. Divide the page into 4 columns, please. Done? Karada?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, now you can name the columns. The first column, law of perception. First column, law of perception. Second column, definition. Second column, definition. Third column, illustration. Third column, illustration. Okay, then?
Okay, madam.
Right.
Okay.
Fourth column is common one. Okay. Implications, educational implications. Educational implications. Right. Can you actually read the 4 columns?
Law of
Law of perception,
Yeah.
definition,
Yeah.
illustration,
illustration,
Education
educational
implication.
implications.
Educational implications. Okay. Now, law of similarity, law of proximity, law of pregnance, law of continuity, and the other one is simplicity, continuity, pregnancy is simplicity, then proximity, and then law of proximity, like that. So these are the laws. And then what it means is the definition. And then
Illustration.
the illustrations, different images are there. And then the teacher implications. So I'm going to actually play a video and get you to complete the, let me see, get you to complete the, wait. Right, it's there. Get you to complete this grid, okay? Right. Yeah. Not this.
Yes, ma'am.
Wait. I'm going to share with computer sounds. Can you see and hear? What I'm showing, the video, can you see and hear?
Here but can't see.
Can't? What can't?
Same.
මට
Can't
තේරෙන්නේ නැහැ ඔයා කියන එක. Can't?
see, madam.
එහෙමද? Why can't you see? You all don't see the.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Madam, can't
Yes,
see,
madam.
madam.
Today it's not good, the connection. Na? Now can you see here?
Oh, okay, madam.
Madam, yes.
Yeah. Now by looking at this, you can actually complete your grid. Okay, the 4 columns. Okay. Right now here, Gestalt's laws of perception is that how theory that looks at human perception. Right? Max Wertheimer, Kafka and all. Right. I will add another one, simplicity as well. Okay. Now, what are the 6 laws of perception?
Proximity.
Proximity, similarity, continuity,
Similarity,
figure and ground, and
figure,
closure.
ground,
Figure
close.
and round.
Yeah.
And
Law of proximity, law of similarity, law of continuity, law of figure and ground, law of closure. අනිත් එක 6 වෙනි එක law of pregnance or simplicity. ඒකත් very important. Pregnance or simplicity. Pregnance is a German word. Can I spell it for you? Pragnance, pregnance, which means simplicity. So you call it pregnance or simplicity. So there are 6 Gestalt laws of perception. So you have named them, right? The first column is done. Am I right?
Yes, madam.
Yeah, we are taking one by one and looking at definition, illustration, and implications. Right. Right. Now you look at this. What is the definition of law of proximity? Objects placed near each other tend to be perceived as one group. Yeah. Objects placed near each other. Objects placed near each other tend to be perceived as one group. When objects are placed close to each other, they are easily perceived as one group. Now you can see that happens in the image. This is the illustration. Now here you perceive all these as one. Why? They are placed close to each other, proximity. But there's a gap here, no? Because of that, you don't see this as one picture. Do you see it as one picture? No. Instead, you see it as a different, separate part. But these 2 are taken as one. Why? They are in close proximity. Understand?
Yes, madam.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, this is the illustration then. Always to talk about Gestalt laws, these illustrations are used. So you can quickly complete that column, the illustration and the definition. Objects placed near each other tend to be easily perceived as one group. Okay. Then illustration is all done. What is the classroom implication of law of proximity? Classroom implication.
මොකක්ද implication එක? කොහොමද මේක teaching learning වලට apply කරගන්නේ? Now අපි හිතමු when you are doing your teaching ඒක දැම්මම ලියන්න එපා, අහගෙන විතරක් ඉන්න, because towards the end you can complete it, but අහගෙන ඉන්න, right? Now when you are doing your lessons, right, we take Sri Lankan curriculum, the primary English language primary curriculum, grade 1 and 2, right? Grade 1 and 2 local syllabus I'm referring to. You know, when the teacher teaches shapes in mathematics, environmental studies, for environmental studies also the lesson is shapes. The lesson is shapes. That means proximity කියන එකට ඊට වැඩි හොඳ example එකක් දෙන්නම. Sorry. Now you're a language teacher. So then you teach your students the simple present tense form or base form. And you're not going to revise it very soon. So you're going to do the second lesson on simple present after 1 or 2 months. So they are not taught in close proximity. There's no nearness in what you are doing. So today you're doing simple present tense. So after a month only that you are doing some activities related to it, they will not easily perceive. They will not easily perceive. Instead, okay, they will find it difficult to understand. So you have to know, when you actually use Gestalt laws of perception, this law of proximity, you know, when things are placed very close and near to each other, they are easily perceived. So it's not only visual aids having these things close to each other, but a lesson. You want to teach a lesson and then you forget about it and not going to teach it for another 1 or 2 months, then there is no close proximity promoted. As soon as something is learned, it's revised, you are like all these things are done, then of course law of proximity works. Is it clear or it's not clear?
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay. Then අපි යමු the second law.
Okay.
Law of similarity. Now I will ask you a question. You at a glance perceive vertical lines or horizontal lines?
But madam,
In this picture, what do you easily perceive? The horizontal lines or vertical lines?
vertical line.
Horizontal, vertical lines.
Vertical
Why do
lines.
you see vertical lines? Why do you easily perceive vertical lines?
Both
Similarity of
vertical
them.
lines and horizontal line.
Yeah, but at a glance, එකපාරට බැලුවාම ඔයාලට පෙවුනේ මොකද්ද? Vertical lines, horizontal lines.
Vertical line.
Vertical lines. ඇයි එහෙම vertical lines පෙවුනේ? Because in the vertical lines,
The red color is very dark.
you have all squares, you have all red, you have all triangles, they are all blue. Similarities there. Am I right?
Yeah, madam.
Yes, madam.
Because of that, the vertical lines are easily perceived. Now you can take down the definition for law of similarity. now, how can you apply this to education then? Now you can take down the definition. We are more likely to group together objects that have similar qualities. Objects that have similar qualities. So how can you apply this into education? How can you? Now, suppose you're teaching grade 1 and 2 English. Activity based oral English කියලා තියෙන්නේ, no formal English language teaching. And your children, they have learning in mathematics shapes. In environmental studies, they are actually taken out of the class and they are looking at different shapes in the environment. And in the English class, they are taught the English words for the shapes that you introduced. So you can see this is what is meant by perception, Gestalt laws of perception, similarity. We have to be a bit lenient, and if we are not happy, we can fashions, okay? Is it clear to you?
Yes, madam.
Yes,
The
madam.
example I have given, okay. Then we'll come to the third law. Now look at this law of continuity. Now these, which line is perceived easily at a glance? The line going upwards or the line going downwards?
Upwards.
Hello, I ask you a question. The line goes upwards. Why do you see that line goes upward very easily?
Light color.
No interruption, no? A smooth flow. No interruption. But here, if you take the line going downwards, you can see there's this interruption. They have to take another curve and get down. Am I right?
Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah, that is why the smooth flow, the continuity, actually facilitates perception. What is the definition given? Can one of you read the definition given?
We
Please.
see two lines, one longer created with the lighter dots and one interpreting it made of darker dots.
Yeah. So we see two lines, one longer created with lighter dots and the one interrupting it made of darker dots. So things which has continuity is easily perceived. That's the definition. Things which have continuity are easily perceived. So how can you apply this into education? How can you apply this into education? Can you just think and tell me? How can you apply this into education? Right. When you do lessons with your students, you have to show them the continuity. This is from the which lesson? Now, for example, if you're teaching in A-level classes, you know they have lengthy syllabuses, and one unit you can complete it in 3 or 4 months or 6 months. So the students, you go and teach them, and by the time that you start teaching, they have forgotten about what it is all about. So they actually will perceive it in a different way. Now, if you show them, this is connected with the previous lesson. And after today's lesson, also the preview, we are going to continue with the same in the next lesson. So they can say there's a smooth flow and connected in what they are learning. If it is slow and smooth and connectedness is there, law of continuity as it suggests, right? In education also, you can actually show them, right, how it is connected with what you know already. And this is a continuation of the same lesson, the day 2. And then this is what we are going to do in day 3. And like that, you have to actually show them the continuity of what you are doing that is easily perceived. Any questions?
Oh, madam.
Any questions? No. අර A level පන්තිවල මොකද ගොඩාක් ලොකු syllabuses තියෙනවනේ. The teachers just walk into the class and then just explain. Then what happens? They don't know where it actually fits into. But a very good teacher will show, we are still in economy. We are still in supply and demand. And the supply and demand, I have 10 lessons to be covered. And this is the day 2. In day 1, this is what is done. And next day, this is what is going to be done. Like that, you have to show the continuity, the flow. Otherwise, you just go and teach today's lesson and then you don't recall what is previously done from the same unit and what is going to be next and all that. The students don't perceive them easily. And there is a research done actually. A-level classes, now you know them, some students, they get 8 A's, 10 A's at the O-levels. But when they go to A-levels, they don't actually even get a simple pass. They fail in all the subjects sometimes. So the educators have done a small scale research. One contributing factor is what you know. They don't actually know the connectedness of the lessons that they have done. They are haphazardly done. They don't know the continuity of the lessons and all that. Because of that, it's not perceived easily and properly. The lesson is not perceived properly because they did not have this continuity. They didn't know which part is where and that and all that. They didn't know. So it's a must when you do teaching. Get them to connect it with what previously done and what is to be done next and all that. Then they get the big picture. They get the big picture means they get the big picture. They can easily perceive that information. Okay, the right. Okay, the figure and ground. Law of figure and ground. We already saw this. We see a figure and ground even if the shapes are grouped together. Now, we have to make sure that the students perceive the figure. Figure is the lesson that you want to teach them, the objective of your lesson, right? But you present the figure, the objective of your lesson, what you want them to learn in grounds. Why do we present it in grounds? Because otherwise there's no other way. But make sure that your students perceive the figure, not the ground. And for that, you have to actually have strategies to get them to pay attention to the figure, not to the ground. Okay, so we see a figure and ground even if the shapes are grouped together. Right. Then the last one. Closure. Law of closure. Law of closure. Now, what do you see here? What do you see here?
Triangle.
A triangle. You see a triangle, but actually speaking, there's no triangle here. But we have the tendency to complete the missing parts and finish the unfinished object subconsciously. Now here you can see this picture, there's nothing connected, but here you fill in the gaps and see it as a line or a something. So that capacity we have. So we can actually connect the missing parts and see the whole. We can see the whole. That is law of closure. So you have to make sure that when you teach, you give them activities, they are not fully complete, there are gaps, but they will actually see the picture by filling the gaps and perceive it easily. Okay, even Piaget says something like that, assimilation and accommodation, Kiara. Okay, now the implications. Now the implications. But do you have anything to ask me? Do you have anything to ask me? Because we discussed only 5 laws, but I gave you another one. Am I right?
Yes, madam.
Yeah. So what is that law? Law of pregnance or
Pregnance and simplicity.
simplicity. Law of pregnance or simplicity. Now here, imagine the illustration because it is not there in the video. Imagine the illustration, the 5 interlaced rings of the Olympic flag. දන්නවනේ Olympic flag එකේ 5 interlaced circles දන්නව නේද?
Yes, madam.
Yeah. So how do you perceive it? How do you perceive it? Do you pay attention to the small oval shaped parts and what is overlapping and all that? Do you perceive them, or you just look at the picture and see, it's 5 interlaced rings scalar? How are you going to perceive it?
Just look the picture, madam.
Okay. About
5.
interlaced rings. As in the simplest form, you will perceive it in the simplest form. You're not going to pay attention to small oval shape uh, areas that is there in the 5 interlaced rings. Instead, you see the big interlaced rings. That's all. Why is we have a tendency to perceive things in its simplest form. We have a tendency to perceive things in its simplest form. ඒක තමයි definition එක. We perceive things in its simplest form. එහෙමනම් මොකක්ද ඒක illustration එක තමයි 5 interlaced rings. So what is the implication for the teacher in that? When you present lesson, if you really want your students to perceive it easily, present your lessons in its simplest form without making it confusion and complex. Present your lessons in the simplest forms that is possible because simple things are easily perceived. That is law of pregnance or law of simplicity. තේරුණාද නැද්ද?
Yes, madam.
Right. Now we are going to look at how can this be applied to education. The last column, educational implications or teaching implications. So I'm paying it. You can actually watch it and complete. If you can't complete, I'm sending you the link. No, you can click on that and watch it leisurely and complete. Okay, I'm not going to stop.
Okay, madam.
Now look at the first one. We miss it. Now lessons should be planned. Lessons should be planned with the next and previous in mind. Continuity. Closely related topics can be taught together. Similarity. Should be made easy to make connections from lesson to lesson. Revisiting points from the last lesson at the beginning of the next. Allows children to see links between what they have previously learned and what they are learning today. They're able to use previous knowledge to build upon new knowledge because it is recalled. The most important parts of a lesson should stand out from the rest. Keywords can be underlined and highlighted. That is a figure highlighted. Children need to clearly understand the important parts of a lesson. Closure. A lesson or topic must always be made complete. If left unsure, a child will develop a negative attitude. Teachers should ensure all children have made significant progress. That is it. එතකොට law of pregnancy එක ගත්තොත් present your lessons in its simplest form because students easily perceive when something is simple. Okay. This is Gestalt laws of perception. Teachers can use these insights to facilitate perception. Okay, to facilitate perception. Any questions?
No, madam.
No, madam.
Oh, madam.
Yeah. Right. Okay. No. Then we are
Madam, we can't hear you, madam.
very good.
I
Hear you,
can't
madam.
hear, madam.
Can you hear? You can't hear me? Right, okay. Now,
okay, madam. Now okay, madam.
right, okay. So now we are going to actually look at, now we looked at perception. We looked at perception and we looked at Gestalt laws of perception and learn how to facilitate perception and how it is useful in teaching and learning. Okay, very important area we covered. So you know when you're planning lessons and all that, you're going to consider them. You're going to consider them. Similar lessons are taught together. Then English language teacher. Normally English teacher teach reading, writing.
Madam, we can't hear you,
Not
madam.
doing grammar much. You can actually, if you teach simple present tense, in the writing class also you get them to use simple present tense and write something. Similarity, එකම දේ කරාම ඒක easily perceive. Okay, our grade 1 class in science, in maths, and in English, all the lessons do share. In the A1, good at insights. Then අපේ ඊළඟ process එක now the sensation and perception discuss. The next is memory. Once information is perceived, it's given meaning. The next is committing them into the memory. Right? So we are going to discuss what memory is as the next thing. But before we discuss what memory is as the next thing, it's 9 o'clock. I will take a 5-minute break. Today I need a 5-minute break. Is it okay?
Okay, madam.
Okay, madam.
9:05. Could you please share the 2 PowerPoint presentations? I have shared it through the campus, haven't I?
We didn't get it, madam.
I will get them too, okay? Now,
Okay.
I put it
Okay, madam.
like, don't actually leave the meeting. I want you to be in the meeting. It's 9. We'll meet at 9:05. I need a 5-minute break. Okay, I'm not
madam.
going anywhere.
I'm going to be at the computer, but I will actually talk to you at 9:05 again. Okay.
Hello. Hello.
Hi, madam.
Right, okay. Yes. And now we are looking at the next cognitive process, that is memory. Okay. The next cognitive process, that is memory. So let me share the PowerPoint and okay, and talk about memory. Right. We discussed Gestalt laws to talk about perception, and now we are looking at memory as a cognitive process. Memory as cognitive process. Memory as cognitive process. Now, what is memory? I have given you an explanation to it. Memory refers to the processes that are used to acquire, store, retain, and later retrieve information. Now, I repeat the four words: acquire knowledge and information, store and retain this information, and then later when you want them, you will be able to retrieve that information from the long-term memory. That process is referred to as memory. So memory refers to the processes that are used to acquire, store, retain, and later retrieve information. This is exactly what you do in teaching and learning. You want your students to acquire knowledge, store them in the memory, and keep it for some time. And when they want it, they need to retrieve it. Maybe they want to exam, they want to retrieve it and do the answers. When they want to solve a problem, what they know, the knowledge, information, they have to retrieve and use it. That ability is termed as memory. Is it clear?
Yes, madam.
Yeah,
Yes, madam.
if memory is acquiring, storing, retaining, and retrieving information, if you know how memory works, you can facilitate the same. You can facilitate the process of acquiring, storing, retaining, and retrieving information, right? If memory, you know how it works, then accordingly that you can facilitate memory in acquiring, storing, retaining, and retrieving information. That is why we are discussing today, right? Memory. So you know what memory is. And here, if you want to look at memory, there are three major processes. Encoding. Encoding is acquiring, transforming information into a form that can be entered and retained by memory system. So encoding is acquiring knowledge. Then storage, retaining information in memory so that it can be used at later time. Storing, retaining, and retrieval. තිබුණට වැඩක් නෑ. When you want to solve a problem, when you want to actually think logically, creatively, and out of the box, critical thinking, you have to retrieve that information that you have stored and then make use of it. Right? That is it. Now to discuss how the memory works. We can look at the stage model of memory. There are several other models of memory. They discuss how memory works, but I have taken the simplest model that discusses how our memory works. All right? How our memory works. What's the theory I have taken to discuss how our memory works? Can you?
Stage model of memory.
Yeah, stage model of memory. Yes, very good. So according to the stage model of memory, there are other models as well. I'm not going to get you to go that deep, right? according to stage model memory, our memory works at 3 layers, 3 stages. Our memory works at 3 stages. The 3 stages of our memory are sensory memory, short-term memory STM, and long-term memory LTM. What are the 3 stages of memory?
Sensory memory,
Sensory memory, short-term memory, long-term memory.
Long-term memory. Very good. So we are going to look at how these 3 stages of memory work in the process of acquiring, storing, retaining, and retrieving information. Okay. So in order to discuss the 3 stages of memory, I will get you to look at these 3 criteria. I will get you to look at the 3 criteria. They are capacity, duration, and encoding. Capacity, duration, and encoding. අපි බලනවා what happens in the sensory memory with regard to capacity, duration, and encoding. Then we go to short-term memory or STM, right? What's the capacity, what's the duration, how it is encoded. And go to the long-term memory, what's the capacity, what's the duration, and how the information is encoded. That is how we are going to actually discuss how memory works as per the stage model memory. So far, so good. Can I continue?
Yes, madam.
Right. Okay. Right. Then sensory memory. What's the capacity and duration of sensory memory? Capacity is unlimited. But no, capacity is also limited. Capacity is unlimited. You can actually see a lot of information, hear a lot of information, feel a lot of information. But the capacity in the sensory memory, remember the capacity in the sensory memory. Can you have a wild guess and tell me what can be the capacity? කොච්චර sensory memory එකේ කොච්චර information තියාගන්න පුළුවන්ද? Can you have
Unlimited.
No, very sorry. It's 2 to 3 seconds or 3 to 4 seconds, not minutes, not minutes. In the sensory memory, the information we receive through the 5 senses can stay only for about 3 to 4 seconds. Okay then?
Okay, madam.
Right. And then if you really want to actually keep this information to store in the memory, once you receive sensory memories, you need to quickly pay attention to the sensory memories. You need to quickly pay attention to the sensory memory. Okay? Right. How can you actually now sensory memory capacity is limited and duration is also very limited, 3 to 4 seconds, not minutes. Within that 3 to 4 seconds, you have to get the learner to pay attention to what they receive through the 5 senses. They have to pay attention. Once attention paid, they are passed on to the short-term memory or STM. If they don't pay attention, what happens? This information is lost. This information is lost. Okay? They are not lost if they are paid attention, in 3 to 4 seconds. Paid attention may be highlighting, underlining, asking a question, showing them a visual. They all are ways of highlighting. It's only within that period, 3 to 4 seconds, if you actually get them to pay attention, they're passed on to short-term memory. So far, so good. Can I continue?
Ma'am.
Yeah. Others?
Yes, ma'am. Continue.
Yeah. Then the information is passed on to the short-term memory. What is the capacity? What is the duration? What do you think of the capacity? What do you think of the duration? Capacity is very limited.
Duration is
Duration is also very limited.
15 to 30 seconds.
Very good. 15 to 30 seconds only that they can keep information in the short-term memory. Not even a minute, right? 20 to 30 minutes. Not minutes, seconds. I'm very sorry. 20 to 30 seconds, not even a minute, that they can keep information in the short-term memory. So thinking that they can't actually keep more than 30 to 20 to 30 seconds, then they are forgotten or lost. Then they are forgotten or lost. But once this information enters the short-term memory, and you can use strategies to keep it longer in the short-term memory. You can use strategies to keep it longer in the short-term memory. Right. Then you know what? Now, short-term memory also has a limited capacity and limited duration. So limited duration, if you don't actually rehearse the information, if you don't rehearse the information, they are lost or forgotten from the short-term memory. If you don't rehearse the information that enters short-term memory within 20 to 30 seconds, then they are lost and forgotten. If these information, very limited information, is paid attention within 20 to 30 seconds, they are passed on to the long-term memory. They are passed on to the long-term memory. And if they are not paid attention, they are lost from the short-term memory. If they are not rehearsed, they are lost from the short-term memory. Once you rehearse them, they are sent to the long-term memory and stored there. That is the process of memory, acquiring, storing, retaining, and retrieval of information. Tell me. Right. Then once rehearsed, the short-term memory, the information enters within 20 to 30 seconds, they are rehearsed, like can you repeat, drill, do something using what you hear and all that, then rehearsed. In 20 to 30 seconds, they are passed on to the long-term memory. And what is the capacity? What is the duration of the long-term memory?
Unlimited. Yeah.
Unlimited capacity. What's the duration? Infinite. Maranatha. If you meet with an accident and if you have dementia and all that, you may forget. Otherwise, until you die, you can keep those stored information in the long-term memory. There's no limitation. Okay, unlimited and infinite. That's the beautiful part. Once you store in the long-term memory, you can actually store any amount of information and you can keep them until you die. That is long-term memory. But sensory memory and short-term memory are very short, very limited in capacity, as well as duration. Okay, so they need to pay paid attention as quickly as possible and rehearse the information as much as possible. Then only that they are actually transferred into the long-term memory. Okay,
Okay, madam.
yeah,
Okay, madam.
yeah. Then as teachers, you should know how this works. As teachers, you should know how our memory works. Acquiring, storing, retaining, and retrieving information. That is what happens in learning and teaching. So you know how memory works with regard to the three stages. Now, what are the implications for the teacher as per the what is his name? Vipal Senevirata. Okay. Then in the long term memory, unlimited information is stored. Until you die, you can keep them. Now, there's a beautiful analogy about the long term memory. There's a beautiful analogy about the long term memory. What is this beautiful analogy about the long term memory? If you want to retrieve information stored in the long term memory, you need to store information systematically. If you need to store information in the long term memory and retrieve them for later use, you have to store this information in the long term memory systematically. So how can you store them systematically? You can ask the students, you have to actually systematically store the information you learn. No. Instead, you have to present your lesson systematically. As the teacher, you're presenting the lesson systematically. Then the students systematically store them in the long-term memory. If they are not systematically stored, retrieval is not possible. If they are systematically stored, you can retrieve the long-term memories anytime. Retrieval is easier. You want your students to retrieve information from the long-term memory. So you teach them systematically, so they actually systematically store them in the long-term memory. You have to show them what they are learning today, connection that you have to show them. And when you teach them, I'm going to teach you 5 reasons for forgetting. So you tell them 5 reasons. So their brain is ready, memory is ready to accommodate 5 reasons. If not, you say reasons for forgetting. Then the memory doesn't know how many reasons you are going to actually give. So memory is not ready to store them, right? It is confusing. So that is teaching. So you have to tell them 5 reasons for forgetting. Then the memory is ready to take in 5. Okay. If you don't say 5 reasons, then the memory doesn't know how many reasons will be actually given, then it will affect the systematic storage. So you have to actually show the big picture. Now we finished the second unit. This is what we discussed. This is how many, this is like, and you have a big picture now. So then actually it's very easy, systematically stored. So you have to present your lesson systematically so your students can systematically store information in the long-term memory. Then only that they will be able to retrieve. There's another strategy. They have to semantically code information. What is meant by semantically coded information? Sometimes we also try that without knowing meaning, we by heart. We try our level best. You don't understand it, but you by heart it to reproduce at the exam. You can't recall it. You can't retrieve it. Why? Because without knowing the meaning only that you tried, wrote, learn, they cannot be retrieved. They cannot be retrieved. If you know the meaning with understanding only, semantically coded information only stored in the long-term memory, then only that you can retrieve it. So if you want to retrieve information from the long-term memory, they should be semantically coded. Can you know the meaning? They should be systematically stored. Right. There's a nice analogy. This analogy says storing information in the long-term memory is compared to storing books in a library. Storing information in the long-term memory is compared to storing information in a library. Why? Now somebody asks you, can you bring this? Now you're getting ready to go to campus. In the morning, your friend calls you, can you bring me the last week note? Because I was absent. On your table, you have only about 25 books. But still, retrieving that note will not be easy. Am I right?
No, ma'am.
Yeah, because it's a mess, not systematic. You go to the world's largest library in Qatar, billions of books. You want to retrieve a book, it's a matter of a click. You can retrieve the book. Am I right?
Yes, ma'am.
How come? Systematically stored. Science, fiction, mathematics, according to the alphabetic order, like that, systematically stored. Retrieval is easier. So it's a beautiful analogy. As teachers, you should facilitate systematic storage, semantically coded information in the long-term memory. If you really want to facilitate memory acquiring, storing, retaining, and retrieving information. So what are the insights for you as the teacher? When you look at how memory works, the students can't take in lot of information at the same time. So you have to present information chunked, putting it into small parts and small amount of information at a time. And you have to use lot of attention gaining strategies. Otherwise, they will not pay attention. It's lost. And then you have to actually rehearse. The little bit of information at a time should be rehearsed a lot. And you have to actually get them to you have to get them to understand what they learn. Otherwise, and systematically present information to facilitate the storage in the long-term memory. So these are some of your insights for the teacher from the stage model of memory. Lot of information at the same time is not possible. Bit of information, little bit of information, and quick attention and rehearsal, and then getting them to store it meaningfully and systematically in the long-term memory should be facilitated by the teachers. Okay. Then the rest of the cognitive process, forgetting only remains. We'll be discussing it next day, and then we can step on to learning theories. What is learning theory? So next day I will take about another 15 or 20 minutes for forgetting, and then we can start the new unit, learning. So that is it. I think it's 9:30. Can I stop and say good night?
Okay, madam.
Good night, madam.
Yeah, I will make
Hi,
sure by
madam.
Monday I will send you all the
Okay,
lecture
madam.
notes. Yeah.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you, madam.
Right. Okay. Bye.
Good night, madam.
Good night, madam.